Hello, and welcome to Your Vote Counts, a public, informational, nonpartisan program designed to get the public acquainted with the candidates vying for the 2024 primary of Salem City Mayor, Salem City Council, Marion County Commissioners, and the Polk County Commissioners. These interviews come to you through the producers at Capital Community Media with questions and moderators from the League of Women Voters of Marion and Polk Counties. All candidates for these races were invited, and all but one chose to participate. Candidates did not receive the questions prepared by the League of Women Voters ahead of time. Candidates, however, have been invited to prepare a 2-minute opening and that addresses their background and qualifications for the office, as well as the 2-minute closing remarks. I am Barbara Sellers-Young from the League of Women Voters of Marion and Polk Counties, and I would like to introduce you to Vanessa Nordyke, who is running for the Salem City Council. Candidate Nordyke, welcome, and we look forward to your opening remarks.
Thank you so much, Barbara. I appreciate being here. I was born and raised in the ward that I represent on Salem City Council. I started volunteering at age 13, and I've had a heart for service ever since. I'm also a career public servant. I spent 15 years at the Oregon Department of Justice, handling child abuse cases and other types of litigation on behalf of the state of Oregon. And then in 2023, I transitioned from child abuse cases, civil rights litigation, other matters, and became the executive director of a local nonprofit that is dedicated to serving foster care children. So I have a heart for advocacy. I have a heart for serving our vulnerable communities. And my track record as a city councilor proves just that. I have voted time and time again to support funding services for low-income seniors, military veterans, low-income households, persons experiencing homelessness, and more. I have voted time and time again to provide affordable housing, which Salem sorely needs. And I want to become your city councilor once again. I want to re-up my term, and I'm proud to say that I'm running unopposed. And that is no accident. I'm running unopposed because I've been working across the aisle from day one. And I built a track record on city council as a pragmatic leader who listens. Anyone who follows me on Facebook or Instagram knows that I'm out there. I'm engaged in the community. I meet our service providers where they are. I meet vulnerable persons where they are. I talk to our business leaders. I have an open invitation to all of my constituents out there to come talk with me, meet with me, and share their concerns with me. And that's why I am extremely proud to be running unopposed. But I feel whether you are unopposed or not, it is of vital importance that we all participate in this process. So, of course, I was more than happy to accept the invitation to be interviewed today. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Your comments remind me that lots of people probably are not aware of what a city councilor does. Mm-hmm. And you allude to it when you talk about reaching out to the members of the community. Can you give us a description of what you think is the ideal city councilor?
That is such a great question. Well, the ideal city councilor would only be a city councilor, frankly. But like many city councils around the state of Oregon, we are all unpaid volunteers. So I have a full-time day job, and so do the majority of other city councilors. Your ideal city councilor would have nothing but time dedicated to serving our community. So instead of being able to give 40 plus hours a week only to council, I divide my time between that, my day job duties, and my responsibilities at home. But let me tell you what else your ideal candidate and your ideal councilor should do. They should be meeting regularly with business leaders. They should be meeting regularly with the service providers who work with our at-risk populations. They should be discussing issues at their neighborhood association meetings. They should be answering questions for their residents. And they should be mindful that they represent all residents within their ward, not just the ones who elected them, not just the ones who agree with you. So what I can bring to the table is the fact that I can professionally agree to disagree, and I do it all the time. I did that as a litigator. I do that as a city councilor. I don't always see eye to eye with my colleagues, but at the end of the day, I can be proud of how I voted and the professionalism of the deliberations, which is of the utmost importance. I think it is extremely important that the ideal city councilor will notify their residents, make sure that they know what's coming. And I do my best on a shoestring budget. I notify people through social media. I talk to my residents on my street. I go to my neighborhood association meetings. And of course, I attend council meetings and plenty of other events that happen in the community. Your ideal city councilor would have an unlimited budget to be able to reach every household. But of course, that's not our reality. So we make do and I do my best to make sure that my residents know who I am and know how to reach me.
It's really clear from your answer that you do a lot of research in the community itself by reaching out to different components and people within the community.
Mm-hmm.
Are there other ways that you do research when you have a project that comes to the council, whether it's climate change or homelessness, or what other kind of sources do you use beyond the reaching out to people?
Sure. Well, obviously, a careful study of the council reports that come to us. So the staff will always prepare a report that tells you what the basis is for the recommendation. And sometimes you have to go back to the staff after you've had a chance to process that information and ask follow-ups. An example of the additional research I might do is sometimes when I have the time and the bandwidth, I will have an intern assist me with some of those deeper research needs. So I've had interns take a look at homelessness and affordable housing issues, public safety issues, and so on. So those are just some of the things that I do. But a form of outreach that I think is very specific is talking to the folks who are most impacted by the decisions I will make. So, for example, when we voted to approve homeless shelters, I went to the shelters myself, unannounced. I wasn't there necessarily for an official tour. I wasn't there for me to receive the glossed over version. I talked to the residents who are using those homeless shelters myself and asked them, do you feel safe here? Do you have the services you need here? Why did you come here? And what is your outlook? What are you going to do now that you are here and you have access to services? Those are some of the most fascinating conversations that I have. And that's why I continue to prioritize vulnerable residents in the decisions that I make as a city councilor.
You actually bring us to a question I was going to ask about homelessness, because it's considered a critical issue for the community. So you were just suggesting that you reach out and you have these conversations with people about the issue. What kind of conclusions have you come to regarding homelessness?
Sure. Several. First of all, homelessness impacts every age group, every demographic group that you can think of. The data bears that out. There are a lot of homeless service providers in the area who collect detailed information about every person they encounter. They share that information, and they share that information with city council and other stakeholder groups. So I can tell you that it impacts all walks of life. It's told me more about the causes of homelessness. A lot of people are just one late car payment away from being homeless. It could be that they received an unusually high medical bill. That was true for a gentleman I met in Wallace Marine Park at his encampment. It could be that they're fleeing a domestic violence situation, which is why Center for Hope and Safety is working so hard to build more affordable housing, because there were a lot of women in particular who are fleeing dangerous situations and they need a safe place to stay, sometimes for a matter of weeks or a matter of months before they can get back on their feet. Another key takeaway I've found is that when we offer workforce development opportunities, people will take advantage of them. We have a new shelter that is ages 18 to 24 years old. And these individuals may not have graduated from high school. They may not have had someone ever talk to them about how to grow up, how to become a fully fledged adult, how to find a job, how to pay for a car, how to get a driver's license. Those things are not necessarily taught in every home. And that to me was a bit of a wake-up call. Coming from a middle-class family myself, there were certain expectations that were made of me. But now that I work with at-risk youth in my nonprofit, I can assure you those life lessons, those incredibly important life skills are not being taught in every household. So you have young people going through the school system struggling. They may not be on track to graduate. They may be this close to ending up homeless. And what are we doing as a community to ensure that they do graduate, that they do find gainful employment, that we're setting them up for success? Because if you can break the cycle of homelessness when someone is 18, you might save a lifetime in services for that person. So there's a lot that we can do to invest in reducing or preventing youth homelessness specifically. Another major takeaway, and this is from working with the United Way specifically, low-income seniors are one of the fastest growing groups of persons experiencing homelessness. We have a lot of seniors in Salem, and of those seniors, many of them are on fixed incomes. They might be getting just a little bit each month in Social Security. They're getting some support from Medicare. They're getting a little bit of this and a little bit of that. But in the meantime, how is their home doing? As household repairs inevitably arise, the longer you stay in a house, the older a house gets, the more you have maintenance costs that may be beyond your physical and or financial ability to pay for. That's why I worked with United Way to support their Cottages United concept, building tiny home cottage clusters so that low-income seniors have homes that they can live in with dignity within our Salem community. So there are a lot of key takeaways. And one of the things I tell the homeless service providers in town over and over again, continue to build that data, continue to connect them with services, continue to develop workforce opportunities so that people can lift themselves up. If they are not invested in their own recovery, in their own future, then those services will not be effective. So we have to build rapport with individuals, many of whom have encountered severe trauma, and figure out how best to serve them. I could talk all afternoon about this, Barbara, but I think you probably have more questions for me.
Well, that was really, I thank you for the very thorough answer to the question. It was very, very enlightening.
Thank you.
Another big issue for us, Salem, is climate in general, not just for Salem, but for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And there now is a climate action plan in place. What do you think of that plan, and how do you see it moving forward?
Well, I was a big supporter of that plan. And for those of you watching who care deeply about climate action, I just want to remind you that your local elections matter. When I was new to council, there was not a lot of support for a climate action plan. Even though other cities across Oregon had already developed a plan, some of them were already on their second iteration of a plan. But in the city council, there was some initial opposition. But as seats changed over, there were more members of council who believe that climate change is real and who believe that we can do something to improve our quality of life, our climate in this area. So I helped vote in that climate action plan, and I served on the mayor's climate action task force with about 40 other stakeholders, including business interests, environmental activists, and many others across the community. So I am absolutely in favor of our climate action plan. However, because I work closely with a variety of people in our community, I recognize that every time we have a climate action goal, it will create impacts. It will create unintended consequences. So understanding what those mean and how that can impact businesses, how that can impact workers, those are all important things you have to take into account. One example would be, during the pandemic, a lot of people were able to work remotely. I was working for DOJ. Under governor's orders, we were all stationed at home and working from home. So no greenhouse gas emissions coming from me because I wasn't driving. Now, there are other workers, a lot of low-income workers do not have the ability to work remotely. I'm talking about your waitresses, your gas attendants, your landscape workers, the people who help keep Salem running every single day. Those folks are not able to work remotely. So when you think about the impacts of, for example, a gas tax, that will hurt low-income workers who can't afford to buy a fancy new electric car, who cannot possibly work remotely because of the duties of their position. So we need to do climate action in a way that considers the impact on our economy and on our vulnerable residents and on our businesses.
Do you see that approach as being part of what people are calling climate justice?
Yes, I do. Absolutely. The other thing I'll point out, we all remember the wildfires a couple years ago. The folks who were impacted severely by the wildfires in Salem, I'm not talking about the Canyon population, which was devastated by the wildfires. In Salem, the folks who were impacted severely by the wildfires include folks who live outdoors. Because remember the red skies, remember the smoke. If you live outdoors, you can't shut out that smoke. So those air conditions that come from climate change, whether it's ice storms or a heat dome or other severe weather events, are folks who live outdoors in Wallace Marine Park or other places around the city. They're going to experience that climate change in a way that I will not, because I have a home.
Thank you for the very thoroughness of your answers. Now, would you like to share with us some concluding thoughts?
Absolutely. So I want to tell my residents that I'm here to work with you. I know that the city of Salem faces a lot of budgetary pressure, and I pledge to continue to keep my residents in the loop. I encourage each and every one of you to make your voice heard. I want you to show up at our budget committee meetings. I want you to write to me personally. You can send me an email anytime you like. It's a matter of public record, vnordyke@cityofsalem.net. You can go to my Facebook page. You can go to my campaign website, electvanessanordyke.com. I just want you to get involved because Salem is growing rapidly. And with that growth, there will be a lot of changes. Council will be asked to approve permits for new houses, new apartment complexes, and all kinds of things. Council will be asked to make some tough budgetary decisions, and I want you to have had your say along the way. So I encourage you to reach out to me, reach out to your members of council, reach out to your mayor. And as I said, I want to continue the work that I've started. I've voted to increase affordable housing. I voted to increase homeless services. We have folks who are now living, they're no longer on the street. They're no longer even in a shelter. They're now living in an apartment of their own. They now are fully self-sufficient and independent, and we together help to make that happen. And I want to do more of these things that actually move the needle on some of Salem's most difficult challenges. So I welcome that opportunity, and I'm honored as a native of Salem to continue this work.
Thank you very much for your interview today.
Thank you.
Thanks also to Capital Community Media for their extensive technology and producer skills used to create this program. And thank you to the League of Women Voters of Marion and Polk Counties for the design and preparation of the program. And thanks to you, the public, for watching in order to become an informed voter. For more local, state, and national voter information on candidates and ballot issues, visit Vote 411 after April 15th, when candidate data is posted. You have until April 30th to register to vote or make changes to your registration. Ballots go out May 1st and will be accepted and counted if postmarked before or on May 21st. Elections matter. Remember to vote because your vote counts. Thank you.